Hello and welcome to the channel. My name's Jack. I'm a guitar player and I play a bit of bass as well, and on a lot of Saturday nights and sometimes Fridays you might find me playing to a bunch of very drunk people on their special day. So I do quite a lot of kind of function gigs. It tends to be weddings, but also a bit of corporate and kind of stuff like that. And I had the idea to make this video about what I think are the kind of main three, I think it's three, considerations that I know that I've made over the years to kind of like refine the rig that I take with me to do functions, especially weddings. Now I've been doing this with varying degrees of frequencies for about 7 or 8 years now. The first band I was in with a bunch of my music teacher friends was about that long ago, and I remember at the time having all sorts of gear and just ideas about how it would work and how best to set up that I've completely proved wrong over the years. And at this point I feel like I've done so many of these that we've kind of got to the point where I kind of know what's worth having and what isn't, and maybe kind of like I kind of wanted to make this video just in case it's kind of helpful to anybody out there who maybe is getting into doing functions, or maybe you joined a band that have got gigs in the diary and you're wondering, you know, what kind of degree of rig do I need to take with me. So yeah, these are my top 3 kind of considerations for a function rig, and like what makes a good function rig in my humble experience. So first of all, in my opinion, it's a good idea to have a rig that sounds good, obviously, but is simple. And what I mean by this is, you know, that thing, I mean, I've certainly heard it, and I've actually, to be fair, I did try it myself for a couple of gigs early on, and it was a pain in the arse, was the kind of idea of having a preset per song, or like a group of sounds per song, and kind of trying to match every song's kind of amp type and certain specific effects and all the rest of it. Now this, like I said, I did try this. I had years ago, I had a Boss, I think it was a GT8 that my brother, I think it's still in the house, I've got it on a very long-term loan. My brother had left in my possession, and I started using that, and basically I had, for every song I had a preset with a bunch of stuff inside that I could switch between. And because I had in my head this idea that like I need to be super focused on the minutiae, you know, that tiny little level of detail with every song, so that like you really fulfill the sounds and the audience really, you know, all the rest of that kind of thing. And honestly, that gave me more headaches than it was worth. And I've found that I spent more time worrying about what preset I was on, what buttons I was pressing and all that kind of stuff, than actually just playing the guitar. So now I'm at the point where I know that if I've got 3, maybe 4 kind of core sounds, and then maybe a couple of extra little stomp box effects that I can turn on and off kind of on top of that, that's going to get you through the vast majority of these types of gigs. It's really important to remember that the audience is not going to care about the difference between one clean tone and another clean tone, for example. I think you're much better off as well from a consistency point of view, having that kind of approach. It keeps everything simple, and it just allows you to focus on what you're doing, and just know that nobody knows the difference between whether you're matching the distortion sound from this song or that song, or, you know, whatever. I think you just need a core group of sounds, like I said, good sounds that sound good, but a small amount of sounds that you can maybe manipulate with a couple of effects if you want. That's what I've learned, and that's what I do now for every one of these types of gigs. I just keep it very simple on my HX Stomp, which I'll show you in a minute. I'm going to talk about the rig that I use. I have 3 snapshots and 3 effects, and that's it, and that gets me through the gig. So the second one of these things is, and that for me this has been way more significant than I thought it would be, is having a setup that is easy to set up and efficient in the way that you set it up. And I think to be able to go direct in with some kind of digital solution is ideal for these sorts of gigs. Now, typical kind of wedding, and you'll know if you've done these sorts of things, unless you've done a daytime thing as well, like the ceremony or the drinks reception or whatever. If you're just doing the typical evening slot, you tend to turn up with about an hour, I find anyway. Sometimes you get longer, sometimes you get a bit less, which is incredibly stressful, but generally you turn up with an hour or so to arrive, set up all the stuff, do a quick sound check, and then either at that point, people are coming into the room, so you need to get out of the way and stop making noise, or you actually need to start playing, do the first dance or whatever it is. Now, I remember when I first started out with this band that I talked about with my music teacher friends kind of back in the day, I think I had an amp head, a cab, I think it was a 2x12, can't remember what it was. I had a kind of traditional pedal board with a bunch of pedals on it. I was using 4-cable method into that amp. We were using in-ears, so I had an in-ear receiver and transmitter and all that kind of thing. I was doing backing vocals, so I had a microphone to sort out. That whole setup was a night, and I had an SM57, like obviously a mic to put in front of the cab. So it was like setting all that up. It was just about possible. But then the thing is, you put the in-ears in and realise that the mic position was a centimetre away. Even if you mark the grill cloth, you're never going to get that mic position exactly the same as it was, the time before. And so you have this inconsistency. There's so many different variables in that setup that can go slightly off. And it was really annoying. And I would spend so much time plugging stuff in. I had 4-cable method for that. I had the in-ears, I had the mic, I had all sorts of stuff. And it was just a very bloated kind of setup. Nowadays, I have, I think, 3 or 4 cables to sort out. And I'm good to go. And honestly, it saves so much stress. There's nothing worse than, say you're 10 or 15 minutes late to the gig because of traffic. You've got guests just finishing up the meal and you're setting up and everyone's a little bit on edge because it's got to be done quick. And if you have got a big rig like that to sort out, you just save yourself the hassle. That's what I would say. It just makes everything much less stressful having a small, I think, digital thing, just a couple of cables. And yeah, that's my opinion anyway, based on my experience. And number 3, I think, is a pretty obvious one for any sort of gig, really, but it's just reliable stuff, right? It's like having gear that's not going to cause you constant niggly problems or just crap out and break. I've used certain things. I'm not going to say what make and model this thing is, but I use a wireless system. I probably bought it 3 different times. The first time I had it, it was fine, but I wasn't gigging loads at the time. The second time I bought it, I was doing quite a lot of stuff, and it had more than one specific problem. The battery flap broke. You probably know what I'm talking about now. And it also used to flash. It used to go wrong, and it would flash random coloured lights at you, and there was nothing in the manual to tell you what that meant. And then I thought this is a faulty one, bought it again, had the same problem. And I just thought, do you know what? I'm just going to invest the money in a decent wireless system, because I do use wireless for the guy, as in I do need it. So things like that, where it's like things like cables being slightly bad, or that mic that I've got which is slightly dodgy, I'll just take that with me. All these little things. I think it's really important if you are new to this and you're getting into it. It's like, just be aware that if you're doing weddings, you're just turning up on somebody's big day. You quite often have, as I said, limited time to sort of turn up and set up and be ready. The last thing you want is the stress of having stuff going wrong. Obviously, you always bring spare everything, but just the horror story of, it's happened to me once or twice where some major part of your setup is on the blink, it's not working, and it's like, what the hell are we going to do? So I would say, hard cases for, I personally don't use hard cases for guitars because I'm just going in and out of the car or the van. So I have a really good quality dual bag for putting my instruments in, that's really well padded and everything like that. But my pedal board is always in a hard case. All my little fiddly bits like my iPad, my cables, adapters, and all the like little stuff, bits and bobs, is in a hard case, this one. Because I found that sort of like using bags and, you know, like soft cases, and even you know, good quality soft cases for pedal boards, the amount of like times I've opened it and there's been a switch like bent, or like a knob that's broken, or a patch cable. It's just, you know, go through each part of the setup and look at how reliable everything is and how kind of reputable. I know it sounds a bit snobbish but buy stuff or use stuff that has a reputation for being kind of bomb proof and being, you know, solid from a usability point of view from gig to gig. I know that I'm going to say at Behringer, I've had so many of their things that go wrong. I know they make some stuff which is okay, the DI boxes and all the kind of rest of it, but I've had mixers, speakers, things where I've just thought, oh, I'll just save a bit of money. And then I had it was a 50th birthday, but done as a function with, you know, seating and proper, you know, a catering company and all that in a big hall. And yeah, I had speakers go down on me, and it was the worst thing ever. Luckily we had some spare monitors that we swapped around and stuff, but you just don't want it. So trust me, if you are new to this thing, reliable gear, just if you have to invest more, just do it, because it will save you a lot of bother. All right, so on to like what I use. I'm just going to make this quick because, you know, this isn't you need to use this stuff. This is just, you know, from the three things that I talked about, you know, just to kind of put that into perspective of what I use. So this is my main guitar. This is an FGN Odyssey J Standard series, they call it. And I absolutely love this guitar. It's Fujigen FGN. It's the Fujigen house brand. So Japanese made from a brilliant factory. Absolutely one of the nicest guitars I've ever played in terms of the feel and the quality of it. It's got a great trem, stays in tune amazingly well. The pickups sound great. Everything is just high quality. So that's why this is my main one, because it's just so solid and an absolute workhorse, and it feels great to play. It's effortless. It's a great weight. I've never had any issues with it, and I've had it for quite a while now. For bass, because I play bass in one of the function bands that I play in, I use this. So this is just a Mexican Fender Mustang bass. I like it because it has the short scale, which means, because I'm a guitar player and I play bass, I'm sorry bass players, but it just means I can get the job done and not mess up because I'm having to do this. Yeah, I know it's bad, but I have made some upgrades to this because I find that certain aspects of Mexican Fenders tend to be a little bit. So I've upgraded the tuners, I've upgraded the bridge, their Gotos, and I've got a pickup blend control instead of the stock switch. I find especially the switches on Mexican Fenders, just for me, the ones I've come across have been a little bit crap. So that's really nice. It's actually nice to just blend in a little bit of the this higher up pickup. I don't know much about basses, sorry. But yeah, this is a real good instrument now. It's set up really nicely. Yeah, it's dependable as, so that's why I use that one. In terms of an amp, I don't have an actual amp for anything. I use this with all of my gigs. If you've watched the previous video, I actually made a video about how to set up, or how I set up my HX Stomp XL, which is what this is for live stuff. You can watch that here if you want to check that out. But yeah, this is my little board. It's a tiny little rock board, 2.1 duo, I think it is. It's pretty dusty, but yeah, so on here I have a Shure. This is the wireless that I switched to when I said I had problems with the other one. This is a Shure, I think it's a GLX D16, not the new one with the plus on it. It's the original one. It's extremely reliable, very, very good, all made of metal. It's like some kind of military device. Do you know what I mean? It's just reassuringly heavy and great. And I use it as a tuner because the tuner on this, you have to hold down the button. This is just a single press, so I much prefer that. So this is awesome. And then this is literally all of my sounds. I use this and I just go direct in to the front of house. And I have patches on here for acoustic guitar, electric guitar and bass. I use this for everything. It sounds awesome, and I think most digital things are more than capable of doing a function gig nowadays. So, you know, that's why for me, yes, I have an amp that's kind of in storage and I use it for certain things every now and again, but most of the time for me, this is just those things I was talking about earlier. It fits that criteria and it's just spot on for me. It's great. I love it. And then, so that goes, I have two outputs on that. One of them goes to front of house, obviously. And then the other one goes to this speaker, which is on stage next to me, kind of in a sort of wedge position. This is, as you can see, an Alto. This is their flagship speaker, TrueSonic TS410. This is the 10-inch version. So this is obviously a FRFR speaker, I suppose you could call it. It's a PA speaker, right? I use it for both guitar and bass. For both of those bands, I use in-ear monitors. So this doesn't really function as something that I immediately kind of monitor from. It's more just to give me the sense of some air moving on the stage, which, you know, if you ever do gigs with in-ear monitors and you have a completely silent stage, it's very, very weird. So just the lack of air moving around makes it feel strange. So we like to, and both the bands are playing, in fact, actually, so the band I play bass in, when I use this, we are all on in-ear monitors and we're all going direct. Dave is on the Kemper, but Dave has his Kemper cabinet, the little 1x12 thing tilted up behind him, sort of blasting at his back of his legs. And I have this on the stage as well. And that just provides, as I say, the feeling of the air moving, which we like. If there's a sound limiter, we turn them right down or maybe even off sometimes. But with the other band, where I'm fronting the band and I'm playing guitar and singing and doing a little bit of lead stuff, that band's an interesting one because I wear in-ear monitors. The other guys don't. I like to have them when I'm singing. If I'm doing lead vocals for 2.5 hours, I just can't do it and not lose my voice without having it in ears. But the other guys aren't into that, so they don't use it, which is fine. So this, in that case, serves as something to go on stage to keep up with Ollie's amp and France's bass amp. And even though it's a little 10-inch speaker, I think the RMS wattage of this is about 1,000. It's 2,000 peak, about 1,000 RMS. It goes really, really loud. And although it doesn't quite have the kind of room-filling kind of quality that a real amp does, it does a really good job of just giving the other guys that kind of stage volume to hear. Because we did a bunch of gigs when I first went digital with them where I was just going straight to front of house and didn't have this on stage. And they all said, you know, it was a bit weird. They have monitors, but it's still just not quite. So having this at the back of the stage is more for them than me, but it allows, you know, for my sound to compete with the other sounds. The reason I use this speaker, by the way, this is something that if you're going down the kind of FRFR route, which just means full range flat response, right? Like a PA speaker or one of those Line 6 power cab or anything like that. There's a thing that happens when you turn them up to a gig volume. The treble gets a little bit intense, can be quite sort of harsh. So the reason I use this is because it has a custom EQ, which you can set on an app. I think it's like a 6-band EQ. And I select the custom EQ option here, and then I have on the app on my phone, I've set up the EQ that I like. So from what I hear on stage, it's not... or what the other guys hear on stage, I should say, because I'm on the in-ears, but what they hear doesn't kind of pierce their ears because I've got that kind of EQ set. If you are looking for a stage volume solution for a modeler or a profiler or whatever, I'd highly recommend finding something where you can either turn the tweeter off or EQ it in some way. or even you could try the effects return of an amp. So anyway, that's basically this has been a rambly one. Yeah, I apologise for that, but I hope there's some kind of useful stuff in there somewhere. So that's just my kind of whole philosophy on doing these gigs. It's a very minimal thing for me. I just take as little stuff as possible, make sure it's easy to set up, reliable stuff, and that just makes my life easy, and I can think about playing Mr. Brightside again. So yeah, cheers. I'll see you in the next one.